attached to this is intended to clarify some of the language that is unique to this zoning district and to address the future re-subdivision of portions of each Eastdale Village projected for financial purposes. The application for Eastdale Village, aka McDonald Heights Town Center, that is currently before the Planning Board for site plan, special use permit, and subdivision review is generally conforming to the area and bulk requirements of the zoning code. However, it is anticipated that the developer will need to modify the internal lot lines within this project in the future to accommodate the needs of potential tenants and to meet construction financing requirements. Similar to how the Open Development Area ODA designation under the consideration by the Town Board for the Eastdale Village project would provide flexibility in dealing with a lot of frontage requirements in such circumstances, an important purpose of the proposed zoning amendment would be to give the Planning Board flexibility in dealing with the area and bulk requirements when reviewing and approving lots to be created by future re-subdivisions within the project, so long as the overall intent and purpose of the district and the approved site plan remains true. Staff requests that the Town Board at its meeting on June 6th initiate the review and approval process for this proposed zoning amendment. To do so, the Town Board should consider an adoption of a resolution to refer the proposed amendment to the Town Planning Board for an advisory opinion pursuant to 210-154, refer the proposed amendment to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and to adjoining municipalities pursuant to 210-155, and to set a public hearing for July 11th. So we're in full compliance with all the recommendations of staff on this.
Correct.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to the end of our public hearings for tonight. On tonight's agenda, we have Lexipol's contract, which was described to us last week. Number 3, authorize the town clerk to re-advertise a bid for non-potable water for the sewer plant. 4, appoint Mary Beth Rubenstein and Jim Challey to the Comprehensive Review Committee. 5, accept the resignation of Colleen Hayes from planning. 6, authorize a grant application to New York State OPRHP Riverfront. 7, a grant application New York State DEC Climate Smart Communities Program. 8, a grant application to Dutchess County Transportation Council Arlington Main Street Redesign Plan Study. 9, Arlington Bar and Grill Motorcycle Rally on the 28th. 10 will be withdrawn. 11 are all the documents the town needs to approve for legal reasons in reference to Eastdale. 12 are special consents. Special consent 1 is agreement to transfer tenancy rights for reserved wastewater capacity to Eastdale. SC2, performance bond for Eastdale for ceremonial groundbreaking. SC3, performance bond Eastdale for Department of Health approval. SC4, grant application for a vacuum flushing truck. SC5, refunding bond resolution relating to the Poughkeepsie Public Library. SC6, New York State intended use plan for Clean Water State Revolving Fund relating to Hudson Heritage. SC7, Dutchess Dragon Boat Race Festival to benefit Dutchess County Habitat for Humanity. To make a motion to suspend rules for any item on the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody who'd like to discuss any item on the agenda? Doreen.
So there's quite a number of special consent items on tonight's agenda, and special consent items, when they're added at the last minute, don't normally have the documents posted. And I did check before I came, I did not see them. So I was wondering if you could elaborate on what is special consent item number 6 relating to Clean Water State Revolving Fund grant relating to Hudson Heritage.
Apply for a grant to do some work on the sewer lines that run through the main section of that service the north end of that property, not their property, out to the DOT. And it's just an application at this point, no commitment at all, but it has to come through the town to go for this application.
Okay. And I'm sorry, so this is part of the Hudson Heritage project?
The main trunk lines go through the center of the project, but it's not for just their sewer. There's sewer on the properties above it that go through that down into the city. on there, so it's not for all of their, it's nothing directly in relation to just their project, it's more in direct relation to all the main trunk lines that are going through the property, to the north end of the property and their property.
Okay.
It is partially theirs, Doreen.
Partially.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, agenda item number 7, grant application for the Climate Smart Communities Program. So is this for a grant for $45,000 to work on the comprehensive plan or master plan update?
Correct.
Okay, well, I have not reviewed the entire Climate Smart Communities pledge, so I'm not sure what this part is, but in the resolution, it says that the Plan Review Committee will consider sustainability, complete streets, and natural resource protection. So when I hear natural resource protection, to me that's habitat, wetlands, whatever. So you're asking for grant money to, through this program that wants you to protect natural resources, but yet if you look on the planning board agenda for tomorrow evening, you'll see there's 2 projects on there that are asking for approval for floodplain developments approvals. So one is for Verizon on Dutchess Turnpike. They want a floodplain development approval. And All Space Storage Expansion on Salt Point and North Grand Avenue, they also want floodplain development approval. And if this is the same All Space project from expansion project from 2014, I remember when I was on the CAC and commenting on this project, the developer, there's a federal wetland on the site, and they were calling the stream a drainage ditch, which is nothing new. I mean, we see developers do this all the time. And it's a federally regulated wetland. So on one hand, you're asking for money to update your master plan under this protection, under the guise of protecting natural resources as part of the climate smart communities, and yet you have the planning board tomorrow night that is more than likely going to approve the floodplain development for both of these projects. So, and Councilman Carlos, we hear you all the time talking about drainage problems. Well, part of your drainage problems in the town is because you're filling wetlands, you're filling floodplains. So, this is just, I don't know. You're asking for money for something that I don't really even know is going to make a difference. So then my other comment is on agenda item number 4, the appointment of Jim Challey to the Comprehensive Review Committee. And I'd just like to make a comment about that. So I was at the Master Plan Committee meeting on June 27th where Jim Challey said that he was delighted that the committee was so open to public input. But in that same comment, he said there was a positive and a negative to that. And he said that you can't let public input be the agenda. And then he went on to quote Steve Jobs as saying that people don't know what they want. So which sort of makes it sound like, okay, the town residents aren't smart enough to be making, contributions, and that their comments should basically, well, you can listen to them, but don't let them, set the agenda. And I wasn't the only person who took that the wrong way because, or the way it was intended maybe. There was a resident who said that every resident is a stakeholder and the committee should act on what they hear from residents. So, and Jim Challey also wanted separate meetings for for planning board and zoning board residents. Well, I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. Let those board members come to these meetings, be there with the public, hear what the public has to say. Jim Challey if he's appointed tonight, he's the ZBA chair. You have John Weissman as the planning board chair. So, they will have representation on those boards. And one of the funny things I thought that night was a resident who didn't know who Jim Challey was also said that she thought that zoning was important, but she also said that she thought that the zoning board was granting too many variances. So maybe that's the sort of comments that the town planning board and zoning board needs to hear. So, but again, I was not very happy to hear basically what I took to be, well, nice that you're letting the public comment on this, but they really are not intelligent enough to know what they want or know what the town needs, and I found that offensive. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Is there anybody else that would like to discuss anything on the agenda? Pam, come on up.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm Mary Beth Rubenstein, and I'm also under consideration to be added to the Master Plan Review Committee, and I just wanted to say that I'm honored to be considered for such. And I also wanted to speak to some of the comments that were just made. I know that you've seen my resume, and I have a bachelor's in environmental planning. I have a master's in sustainable development with a concentration in environmental policy, and I've been an environmental planning intern for the town of Ithaca, and I have other experience that I think, would speak to some of the concerns, perhaps, that these types of issues wouldn't be considered on that master plan review committee. And obviously, there's whatever's happening currently is happening, but I think the idea for the master plan review committee is that we consider things for going forward, and that we, bring the planning and zoning board thinking in alignment with that plan. And I hope I'm selected, because I really would look forward to that work, and I'm really excited to be considered to serve the community in that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Your motion to resume the rules?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Lexipol offers a one-source solution for policy management training, content, and implementation that fully meets New York State Division of Criminal Justice Law Enforcement accreditation standards, and it currently serves 81 clients in New York State. And whereas the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department currently manages the development and oversight of its departmental policies, and whereas Chief Ronald J. Spiro, Jr., in the attached memo, has recommended that the town contract with Lexipol for these services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor or his designee to sign an agreement with Lexipol on terms acceptable to Chief, the supervisor, and the attorney to the town for the management, training, content, and implementation of policy procedures for the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department by Lexipol per the price as outlined on the annexed, and be it further resolved that the town board further finds that it would not be in the best interest of the town to solicit alternative proposals or quotations for such service, and be it further resolved that the town board finds that this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any questions on this one?
Is this within the police's administrative budget for this year, or are they asking for
Correct.
extra
Nope,
funds?
it's in there.
It's all within the budget?
It's all within there.
That's great.
Yeah.
So,
Because for those listening, the annual price is $13,303, and then there's some support fees, that's $16,095. So it's actually, for that price, it's a really good price, and it's going to be just so much more effective for them to have all this information right in their hand, right in their phone.
you're right, and it should lighten up the staff on having to go out and dig into this, so paying for it and getting the officers back out on the road, what they're supposed to do and do their other jobs.
Well, yeah, and
Free 'em up.
it's also going to save meeting times and things like that, where you have to get everybody together and explain what the new policies are. This way, they'll have them immediately.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good program.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved that by reason of externally caused technological interruption which necessitated a postponement and rescheduling of the June 27, 2018 bid opening, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie hereby authorizes Town Clerk to re-advertise for bids for Arlington Wastewater Treatment Plant, new pumping equipment for non-potable processed water supply. Pursuant to plans and specifications which will be available on July 23, 2018 in the office of the Town Clerk. An optional site visit for bidders will be on August 14, 2018 at 1 p.m. and the bid open will be held on August 28, 2018 at 11 a.m. Be it further resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby reserved the right to accept or reject all bids in whole or part, and be it further resolved that the Town Board does determine that this action is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Mary Beth Rubenstein and Jim Challey to the Town of Poughkeepsie Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, effective immediately. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any questions on this one? Everybody got all the resumes?
Absolutely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Welcome aboard.
Be resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of Colleen Hayes from the part-time clerk position in the Planning Department effective July 25th, 2018. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any question on this? Just wish Colleen luck. She's going from a part-time position with us to a full-time in another location, so she was a very good employee when we had her.
Yeah, she was really
very
great
good.
help, even to me, actually. She did a lot of work for records management and scanning, and
No,
I'm
she
going to
was-
miss her. She was really a great worker.
She's a team player by far. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie is the owner of Riverfront Park located 11 River Road in the historic hamlet of New Hamburg, tax parcel 6057-07-518819. And whereas the town of Poughkeepsie desires to make improvements to this 3/4 acre pocket park to enhance enjoyment and improve public access to the Hudson River waterfront. And whereas prior to undertaking any improvements, the town of Poughkeepsie wishes to engage residents of New Hamburg and the surrounding community in the planning and design process to ensure that potential improvements satisfy the needs of residents and visitors to New Hamburg, and identify and address potential issues such as, but not limited to, flooding and sea level rise. Now therefore, be it resolved, the town of Poughkeepsie is applying for financial assistance from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation under Title IX of the Environmental Protection Act of 1993 for the purpose of funding the planning and design of improvements to Riverfront Park. And be it further resolved, the town of Poughkeepsie is authorized to accept these grant funds in an amount not to exceed $27,500 for the project described in the grant application. Be it further resolved, the town of Poughkeepsie recognizes that this is a reimbursement grant. If the grant application is successful, the town will match the state's $27,500 with at least $27,500 in cash or other eligible types of applicant share. Be it further resolved, the town of Poughkeepsie is authorized to agree to the terms and conditions of the master control of OPRHP for the planning and design of improvements to Riverfront Park. Be it further resolved, the town of Poughkeepsie is authorized to agree to the terms and conditions of any deed of easement granted to OPRHP that affects title of real property owned by the municipality improved by the grant funds, which may be a duly recorded public access covenant, conservation easement, and/or preservation covenant. And be it further resolved, the town board of town of Poughkeepsie delegates signing authority to execute the master contract and any required deed of easement to the town supervisor or his designee. Be it further resolved, the town board finds this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions on this one?
I just wanted to clarify something that's going to show up in this resolution and the next one as well, about the reimbursement grant and also matching. This is a reimbursement grant that is also a matching grant,
Yeah.
which means we have to put up the funds at the start, and then when the project is done, they will reimburse us for up to $27,500.
Yes.
Project.
Yep.
Okay.
And the matching part can be in kind. It can be manpower, labor.
Hours. Okay, great.
Yep, and so forth. So it doesn't necessarily have to be cash.
Right.
Yeah, and all these grant applications, we don't have to take any of them. They come in, and we're not comfortable at that point in time, we can.
Laying out that money.
let them go.
Okay.
This is just to give us the okay to apply. Most of these new grants all want a board resolution prior to us even applying now.
Make sure it's
That's why
viable. Sure.
a lot of them are showing up.
Okay.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 7, whereas the town of Poughkeepsie adopted the New York State Climate Smart Communities Pledge by resolution on April 18, 2018, and whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has established a comprehensive plan review committee to prepare an update to the 2007 town plan, and whereas the town of Poughkeepsie Comprehensive Plan Review Committee held its first meeting on June 27, 2018, and expects to work with the community over the next 12 to 18 months to prepare a draft plan update for consideration by the town board. And whereas, as part of the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee's review and update of the town plan, it will consider sustainability and smart growth principles, complete streets, natural resource protection, and other actions consistent with the town board's adoption of the Climate Smart Communities Pledge. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor of the town of Poughkeepsie or his designee are authorized to apply for and execute documents to the effect of a $45,000 grant for funding through the New York State Climate Smart Communities Program, and be it further resolved that the town of Poughkeepsie recognizes that this is a reimbursement grant, and if the grant is awarded, the town will match the state's contribution with at least $45,000 in cash and other eligible forms of applicant share, and be Be it further resolved that the town board finds this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on this one?
What's it for?
Master plan. To possibly hire a consultant to help us put it all together.
Okay,
And whatever-
not for stipends for any
No,
committee
no,
members or such?
no.
Consultant fees,
No.
okay.
No, it's to help put them together when we get to the final stages. Mike Welty thinks that we can do most of it, but he says when we get to the end of the final, he thinks.
For the actual
we're definitely
language
somebody
for
to put it all together.
Zoning amendments,
Yeah.
okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0.
Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie and the Dutchess County Transportation Council completed the Arlington Town Center pedestrian plan on February 2017, and whereas potential improvements to the Main Street corridor were identified in the Arlington Town Center pedestrian plan to enhance walkability and calm traffic, and to improve the appearance and economic vitality of the Arlington Town Center. And whereas the town of Poughkeepsie desires to work with Dutchess County, the DCTC, and the community to develop an Arlington Main Street redesign plan and feasibility study to create a conceptual design for Main Street improvements and to identify possible issues, costs, and implementation actions that will be necessary to implement the proposed improvements. Now therefore, be it resolved that the supervisor of the town of Poughkeepsie is authorized to apply and execute any documents relating to the DCTC for funding with this transportation planning project under the 2019-2020 Unified Planning Work Program, and be it further resolved that the town board finds that this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore received an application from Andrew D'Angelo on behalf of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention to hold the second annual David D'Angelo Memorial Bike Run for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention to be held on Saturday, July 28, 2018. Be it further resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie has hereby approved the application for said memorial bike run, that the town clerk is a receipt of a certificate of liability insurance naming the Town of Poughkeepsie an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one?
Where's the actual run taking place? I see the locations where they're starting, or where they go?
They go 100 and some miles. They go 100 and some
Oh,
miles.
because they didn't map it out. So
Yeah,
I was curious.
yeah, no, I think they told us last week.
I don't know if I've ever got a map for a motorcycle run, but
Yeah, because they
Curious.
just take off and it's, I think they said 100.
they're gonna need
25
police
miles.
help when they leave, they said. Talk to the police.
All right, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Number 10 has been withdrawn from the agenda.
Resolution 11, whereas on July 12, 2018, the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board issued conditional site plan and special use permit approvals for the Eastdale Village project, aka McDonald Heights Town Center, which is located in the MHC district. And whereas prior to its adoption of the resolution of conditional approval, the Planning Board on March 15, 2018, adopted a secret finding statement, which finding statement is annexed hereto as Exhibit A. And whereas the development of the project requires the execution and delivery, and in certain cases the recording of multiple documents required by the Planning Board and the Town Board, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie adopts the Planning Board's March 15, 2018 finding statement for the Eastdale Village project, including paragraph 6.0 certification of findings. And be it further resolved, the documents listed in Exhibit B hereto, in substantially the form presented, shall, subject to being in form acceptable to the attorney of the town, be delivered to the town and recorded as required within 30 days of the Planning Board chairperson's endorsement of the site plan, unless another date has been elsewhere specified. So moved.
Second?
With motion second. Jeff, would you like to come and explain this? Jeff, representing Eastdale Village, you can come up and go through all the sections and explain them to us.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, members. Everyone can see that. Thank you. I'm Jeff Kane. I work with Kirchhoff Properties representing Eastdale Village, which is, again, thanks to a lot of work we've done with the planning board and the planning department and your consultants and staff. We recently received conditional site plan approval on this project for up to 390 residential units and about 100,000 square feet of new commercial space in the town. It's a complicated project. There are a lot of documents here, and we've been asked to just kind of briefly describe the documents that are in front of you for approval. And I'll go as fast or slow as you want. I'll try to go through unless you maybe have questions about what some of these documents are. But it's an integrated plan that goes both sides of Route 44, Dutchess Turnpike in the town. Begin to orient you, the Lutheran Care Center is up on the hill above us. The first document listed here is the Declaration of Reciprocal Easements. Because it's an integrated plan with commercial and residential and multifamily uses in here, there's shared parking, shared utilities, shared access, there's shared maintenance of snowplow removal, of landscaping. All of those items are handled in a reciprocal easement document that has but one operator to make sure it functions as but a single site. You'll see these in many of your major developments. Galleria Mall, I'm sure, has one for their internal users. Again, a lot of sites have these, and it's something that the town would like to review in form to make sure that we have a workable program to make sure the maintenance is in place and make sure that the easements are in place for the proper function of the site. The second document, New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, Letter of Resolution on Cultural Resources. There were and are cultural resources that have been discovered on the site. Our consultants have worked with the state OPRHP to identify those resources, avoid them where possible, and where there is some impact of those cultural resources, we have provided mitigation to the satisfaction of both the planning board and the state. That results in this letter of resolution. The signatories on that letter of resolution are New York State DEC, New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, and the developer. There are, again, certain requirements that we have to complete to satisfy those agencies, and that's been, again, provided here really to be received by the town board, and the requirements in that letter of resolution are requirements on the site plan approval, both resolution and notes on the site plan.
Question about that.
Yes.
Just because I'm not sure what that term refers to, can you give an example of a cultural resource that needs to be avoided on the site?
There are both archaeological and historic resources that are governed by OPRHP. Typical historic, I'd say archaeological resources can be both historic and prehistoric. So there are pre-contact Native American sites, potential sites that are investigated to see what in fact may be on the site. This site did not have any pre-contact sites. Okay. There were some archaeological resources, some old structures that were uncovered on the site. There was a house from 1730 that there's some foundation. So we found an old stone foundation about 3.5 feet down, and it was uncovered to identify that there was a house there. And there's a report's written, and that finalized report will go to the state for acceptance. So then you get above ground, you get historic resources, and on this site, there are a couple of old structures, in the United States of America, anything older than 50 years is considered an historic house. I think in Europe they have a slightly different standard, but ours is 50 years. So anything older than 50 years has to be analyzed for significance. And this, as an old farm complex, was determined to have some significance. And what the state is requiring to be done here is a photo and drawing documentation of some of the structures that remain on the site. That'll again go in a report to the state. But also, one of the buildings on the site, we have a mail building here to where all the residents will get their daily mail. Some of the architectural elements in one of the old barns there will be incorporated into this barn. So we've shown them the architectural design, so it'll be reminiscent of an old horse barn, and there's also a requirement for photo documentation of the old structure. if you notice the cabinet back there, that's again that's similar to our display. It won't be a cabinet full of resources, but it's a similar thing that actually I worked on 20-some years ago in the town to create that kind of display that again kind of tells the story of what was here, and again the placing the display in the mail building was an appropriate place because people see it every day. So.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I'll talk as much as you want, so.
It's a lot of information. There's
Right.
It's a big packet here.
Yeah. Declaration of Archaeology Covenant, which is the next item. There was I said there weren't any pre-contact sites here. This is slightly different orientation of the drawing, but in this drawing, 44 is at the bottom of the sheet and Lutheran Care is at the top. Back in the corner here, there was the suspected to be Native American site. And so when we prepared item 2, which is the letter of resolution, they said you have to stay away from that site that cannot be developed because it may have some prehistoric significance. And so this deed covenant in number 3 is to preserve that land. As it happens, we have done further investigation, and the recommendation from our consultants is that there's nothing there. So, but we still have to have the deed covenant on record here until we get the state to say, okay, we've reviewed it and agree. 4, declaration of density covenant for subdivided parcels. Again, 390 units overall on the site. This site will be subdivided in the future as we complete our build-out. I think one of the concerns of the town is to make sure that we don't go over that 390 cap as lots are developed. So there's a density covenant, and density will be assigned on a lot-by-lot basis, tracked against that overall cap. 5, declaration of easement for public recreation. Again, as part of this project, there's an 18.4 acre parcel, and again, 44 is at the top here. This is at the bottom of the page. The Wappinger runs right across the bottom. This 18 acres borders on the Wappingers, and this land is being dedicated to the town as parkland within this project. So
That's completely wooded as currently, yeah.
It is wooded, yes, and there are some trails that run through there, which will be upgrading and maintaining through this project. There's a second parcel. Sorry, there's really 2 documents. There's a second parcel. There's a 2.75 acre parcel which is accessed via Victory Lane. Poughkeepsie Business Park is over here, Dyson Racing at the end. So this parcel is being separately donated to the town, and as part of that donation, what's being constructed on the site are a parking area, a pavilion, restrooms, to increase the recreation resources in the 3rd ward there. So that's a separate land donation to the town. Sidewalk maintenance declaration. There are sidewalks proposed in the project across the frontage of Route 44 by legislation. Since it's a state highway, the state says the town is responsible to maintain those sidewalks. The town in turn says, well, you're going to be responsible. So that's the sidewalk maintenance agreement that we give. That we'll be responsible for constructing, maintaining, plowing those sidewalks. Connector Road, additional offer of session for Connector Road. As part of the overall development, this is the lower half of the plan. There has, in an earlier 2008 application for this property owner, this is Victory Lane, there was an offer of session for Victory Lane, and then as it connected into this project, the geometry of building this last bit of the connector road requires a slight change in that offer of session. So this is the offer of session to the town of this road still exists. There's a little triangle being added to that offer of session. So in fact, this connector road can be built We are, as part of this project, building this connector road in a later phase of the project, but the offer will exist for the town to take that land. Access easement memo to Darrow Place, and again, one of the things that we worked through, good planning, worked through with the planning board, is to make sure there's interconnection between this project and the neighboring properties. I didn't point it out before, but we also have access into Concord Village Drive from the project, and that benefits both the Concord Village staff and visitors as well as our residents. But down here in this corner, you can see Darrow Place at 44. There's a access from Darrow Place over to the project site. And one of the things that the Darrow Place residents asked was the ability to get out of Darrow Place easier, make lefts onto 44. So this, in its ultimately will be a one-way, this direction only, which they asked for, a way to exit Darrow Place through our site and get to a signalized intersection at 44. So there's two pieces of this. One is we have an easement over Mr. Phillips's property here, and that's, again, you're going to receive a copy of that easement. And second is the town would like the right but not the obligation to maintain this connector road if we didn't maintain it. The town wants to be able to step in and make sure it stays open. Stormwater maintenance easement. This is really for every project in the town. The town would like to needs to maintain the right but not obligation to maintain the stormwater facilities throughout the site to make sure drainage works. And that's really combined with 10A, the Stormwater Management Inspection and Maintenance Agreement. So those really are combined to give the town those rights. Drainage facilities, access, construction, maintenance easement, and relocation. There's an existing pipe that runs from off-site through our site, conveying drainage and discharges back off-site again. It's an existing pipe. It's not our water, but we are relocating how that drainage line runs, and so this is just permission to really relocate an existing drainage line with no impact on the drainage flow. Number 12, drainage facility access, construction, and maintenance easement. As part of our drainage, we are discharging onto this adjacent site over here, and so there's an easement from this property owner to this property owner allowing that drainage to be discharged, and the town is receiving a copy of that easement to know that it's in place, allowing us to discharge that drainage. Number 13, agreement for transfer of sewer tenancy rights with Lutheran Care. So in 1995, Lutheran Care Center purchased sewage capacity from the town with the right to transfer some of that capacity to others with town board approval. Again, Lutheran Care Center is here. They have a drainage facilities that sewer facilities take the sewer up and over the hill and to the Arlington treatment plant. So that transfer of sewer capacity to this project, with many conditions, is before you. We have a contract with Lutheran Care Center. It's one of the documents you'll see, and then this is the town's acknowledgement and permission to have that transfer of sewer capacity. A declaration of sewer facilities access, construction, and maintenance easement. All of the sewer facilities on our site here, pump stations, sewer mains, force mains, not the individual laterals that go from the main to your house. The town has asked for, again, the right but not obligation to maintain those sewer lines. The reality is what happens is there is a sewer problem. Residents sometimes call the town and not the owner. And so this is, again, the town has the ability to come in and fix a problem. We're on the hook for it. This is just, if there's, for some reason, we're not there. And then there's, I guess, number 17, I just want to say it because it goes along with that. The town has asked for an offer from us that we offer all those sewer facilities to the town should the town want to take it. So it's an offer of dedication, offer of cession of all those facilities to the town. So the town has the right to take those at no cost. And I think I skipped 15 there. Sewer facility access. One of the pieces of the puzzle here, because our sewer goes into Lutheran Care Center and over the hill, there's an existing pump station here. It's just off the corner of our property. This is a copy of an easement we have with Lutheran Care Center that allows for that last 20 feet of pipe to go from our site across to their site, so the last mile. Number 18, Sewer Transportation Corp. is otherwise a resolution, and I believe in your packet. And number 19 is declaration establishing water facilities access for the town. There are a total of, now I forget, 4 or 5 locations where the town water department has asked for an easement to be able to access and maintain. Again, right but not obligation to maintain some of the critical water features. There are 2 water, typically referred to as a water pit, which has a water meter and backflow prevention. They are subsurface pits that enable the water flow from the town's mains to the center to be monitored and maintained. The town wants the ability to access those in case there's an issue. And there happen to be, and I believe it's 3 fire hydrants which are tapped off of the town main that sit on our property. They exist. They pre-existed this site, and the town never had an easement, and so now has asked for an easement on those hydrants. So that's included in this number 19.
Anybody have any more questions? Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items to wit. 1. Authorize supervisor to sign agreement for transfer of tenancy rights for reserved wastewater capacity, Eastdale. 2. Accept performance bond, Eastdale RE ceremonial groundbreaking. 3. Accept performance bond, Eastdale RE Department of Health approval. 4. Authorize supervisor to sign grant application NYSDEC for a vacuum flushing truck. 5. Resolution. Refunding bond resolution relating to the Poughkeepsie Public Library. 6. Authorize supervisor to sign NYS intended use plan for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund grant relating to Hudson Heritage. 7. Authorize Habitat for Humanity Dragon Boat Race and Festival. And be further resolved upon objection of any member of the town board, an item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Motion second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Whereas on July 12, 2018, the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board adopted a resolution of conditional site plan and special use permit approval for the Eastdale Village project, FKA McDonald Heights Town Center, which approvals and development of Eastdale Village project are subject to the execution delivered to the town. In certain cases, the execution by the town, the recording of certain documents, including a consent by the town to transfer of sewer tenancy rights from Lutheran Care Network, Inc., to the developer of the Eastdale Village, MHTC Development, LLC. And whereas the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie, as involved agency under seeker, has this day by resolution adopted the seeker finding statement for the Eastdale Village project is initially adopted by the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board on March 15, 2018. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor and members of the Town Board be the same are hereby authorized to execute the annexed agreement for the transfer of tenancy rights for reserved wastewater capacity for the benefits of Eastdale Village. The use of such capacity to the subject to the performance of the conditions annexed as Exhibit A to this resolution. So moved.
Second?
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Special consent 2. Whereas the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board on July 12, 2018 granted conditional site plan and special use permit approval for a multifamily and mixed-use project known as the Eastdale Village Project, McDonald Heights Town Center, and also authorize limited on-site activity before the site plan is signed to allow Eastdale to have a ceremonial groundbreaking as described in the Planning Board resolution at Exhibit A hereto. Subject to there being security for the performance of said required restoration and other conditions of approval, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie authorizes the supervisor to accept a performance bond from the project developer secured by cash, letter of credit, surety bond, or bank check in the amount to be determined by the supervisor after receiving an estimate from the town engineer. Said documents to be in the form acceptable to the attorney for the town. So moved.
Second?
We have a motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Whereas the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board on July 12th, 2018 granted conditional site plan and special use permit approval for a multi-family and mixed-use project known as the Eastdale Village Project, McDonald Heights Town Center, subject to Dutchess County Department of Health approval of the proposed water and sanitary facility, and whereas the town requires security to assure the stabilization of the site and the restoration of public lands in the event that the Department of Health does not approve the Eastdale Village site plan as approved by the Planning Board. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board authorizes the Town Supervisor to accept a performance bond from the project developer secured by cash, letter of credit, surety bond, or bank check in the amount to be determined by the Supervisor after receiving an estimate from the Town Engineer, said documents to be in form and substance acceptable to the Attorney for the Town and the Director of Municipal Development. So moved?
Second.
A motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby authorized the supervisor to execute a grant agreement application and other required documents to apply for and receive funding from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation through the 2018 New York State Consolidated Funding Application Competition, Water Quality Improvement, and commit to funding 25% cost match for the purchase of a vacuum flushing truck to assist the operations of various town public works department. And be it further resolved, the Town Board does hereby determine this action is type 2, requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
You have a motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
How do I read this? Do we fill in the blanks as we go?
Yes.
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 I guess.
Yeah. I'll help you.
Okay. At a regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, held at Town Hall in Poughkeepsie, New York, in said town, on the 18th day of July 2018 at 7:00 p.m. prevailing time. The meeting was called to order by,
John J. Baisley,
and upon roll being called, the following were present.
William Carlos, Jessica Lopez, Mike Saffone, Matthew Woolover, Ann Shershin, and John J. Baisley.
And absent.
Was Jeff Renahan.
The following resolution, which is attached as Exhibit A hereto, is incorporated herein, and the Town Board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said resolution and does direct that said resolution be spread across the record as if it in fact had been read verbatim, was offered by,
Matthew Woolover,
who moved its adoption, seconded by,
Ann Shershin.
Ann Shershin,
and the following resolution was duly put to a vote, which resulted as follows.
Bill Carlos.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it for a second before you vote?
Yeah, everybody, this is a,
Sorry.
I'll talk, I'll let them. Poughkeepsie Library, we called them earlier in the year and told them that the rates should be what they are. They could go out at this point, you have to wait so many years to rebond their bond, so we called them, asked them if they'd like to go. And now, of course, the last minute, they come in and rebond and save some money. Does not affect our bonding rating, doesn't affect any of our loan. It says it being the way they're set up in the corporation they are, it has to come through the town. We have to approve their bonding. So it doesn't affect us all. They still pay. We're not on the hook for anything, but the way it's set up, it comes to us. So Charlie had some good numbers earlier in the year, and he called them, I think it was in May, and said, you guys, would you like to do this? It's going to save you a good chunk of money. And I think they had to wait 10 years prior before they could go and rebond. So this is their chance to rebond, and now they have to do it within so many days, which is the last minute.
Okay. Bill Carlos,
Aye.
Jessica Lopez,
Aye.
Michael Saffone,
Aye.
Matthew Woolover,
Aye.
Ann Shershin,
Aye.
and John J. Baisley.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution was thereby declared duly adopted.
Okay. Whereas EFG DRA Heritage LLC applicant is the owner of approximately 156-acre site of the former Hudson River State Hospital on Route 9 in the town of Poughkeepsie, the site, and whereas the site is located in the Historic Revitalization Development District, HRDD, under the zoning code of the town of Poughkeepsie, town zoning code, and whereas the applicant is proposing to redevelop the site as a mixed-use pedestrian-friendly residential and commercial development, the project, and whereas on November 15, 2017, the town board adopted a resolution approving the development master plan submitted by the applicant in connection with the project after completing the required environmental review process in accordance with seeker and adopting the zoning text amendments, and whereas the applicant is now in the process of preparing a site plan application for the development of the first phase of the project, and whereas in connection with preparing the site plan application, the applicant has identified a potential source of state funding to be applied to the proposed replacement sewer infrastructure at the project site that would ultimately be dedicated to the town's sewer infrastructure, and whereas to be eligible for said state funding for the sewer infrastructure, the project must be listed on the New York State Intended Use Plan for Clean Water State Revolving Fund, the listing, and therefore an environmental and engineering report demonstrating the need for the sewer infrastructure must be submitted to the state. Whereas the applicant has agreed to prepare at its own cost the engineering report subject to the town engineer's approval, as well as other necessary documents to pursue the listing subject to the town's special counsel's approval, and whereas submitting the listing and related documentation does not commit the town to participate in the New York State Clean Water Revolving Fund program, approving the applicant's site plan application or other related applications necessary to begin construction of the project and or accepting dedication of the sewer infrastructure. Whereas in event the town is awarded the funding as a result of the listing and the town elects to accept the funding award and participate in the New York State Clean Water Revolving Fund program, the applicant or its successor in interest and the town shall enter into agreement whereby the applicant or its successor in interest will agree to act as the town's agent in overseeing all aspects of the construction of the sewer infrastructure, as well as agree to fully identifying and hold harmless the town from all costs, fees, and liabilities associated with applying to the New York State Clean Water Revolving Fund program, and whereas the town board finds that submitting the listing and related documents to the state would not commit the town or any of its review boards to approving the applicant's forthcoming site plan application and related requests for approvals associated with the project, and as such would constitute only a preliminary planning activity that is considered a Type 2 action under New York State Law Environmental Quality Review Act. Now therefore be resolved, 1, the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor to execute on behalf of the town a listing in accordance with the provisions set forth above, provided that the applicant fully identifies the town for all costs, fees, and or liabilities associated with preparing and pursuing the listing, and 2, the town board hereby reserves in its sole discretion and without legal penalties the right to withdraw the listing or any subsequent funding application at any time it deems reasonably necessary, and in the event the funding is awarded to the town, the right to decline the funding award and not participate in the New York State Clean Water Revolving Fund program. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Whereas the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore received an application from Habitat for Humanity of Dutchess County for the Dutchess Dragon Boat Race and Festival event to be held on Saturday, July 21st, 2018, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Vassar College Boathouse, 272 North Water Street, Poughkeepsie, New York, Whereas the presence of food vendors, craft vendors is a vital part of a successful festival, now therefore be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does not include vendors of foods and of goods participating in the Dragon Boat Race and Festival as peddlers and hawkers. These vendors are hereby exempt from the provision of Chapter 151 of the Town Code. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive all permit fees relating to this event. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application as submitted for said event to be held on Saturday, July 21st, 2018, pending receipt of a certificate of liability insurance named the Town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any questions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. We've come to the end of our agenda. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for any item.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody like to discuss any item? Doreen?
So special consent item number 3, the performance bond. So did I hear that right? You're accepting a performance bond and you don't know the amount of it?
Hasn't been determined yet. We will be accepting once we get the correct amount from the,
Okay, so even though you voted to accept it, you don't know what the amount is?
no, and if we
but-
don't feel it's the amount that we like, we're not going to accept it. It's got to be, once we figure out what the amount from the engineering department is, we're going to accept it.
So why didn't you wait until you knew what the amount was?
Want to get this all wrapped up in one big piece.
So does it say in there that if you're not happy with the amount, that you don't have to accept it? Since you already voted on it?
I
don't
think
have to-
it says that the supervisor's authorized to.
Okay.
I don't think that it says that he is directed to.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think.
what do you think? Okay, will those documents be posted? Yes?
Once they are completed.
Okay. I think it was last month, Councilman Carlos talked about the water board reconciliation, and that would be between the City of Poughkeepsie and Town of Poughkeepsie, how much money is owed, and I know you have since received the reconciliation, but has the amount been agreed upon yet?
The amount's in
No.
dispute, the lawyers are dealing with it.
Okay, so the city and the town do not agree on the amounts,
I
and,
can't speak for the city, I can speak for the town.
We've sent back basically our rebuttal to what their numbers were, and we haven't heard back from them yet.
okay. All right, and talking about water, so in the Poughkeepsie Journal, I saw that there was a discharge of, could be as much as like close to 500,000 gallons of raw sewage that were spilled into the river over a series of days. And there was also a quote in the paper from Randy Allstat, said that he was not contacted by officials about the spill. And I find that to be troubling because the Hudson River is the source of the drinking water for town of Poughkeepsie and city of Poughkeepsie. And I would think that that the plant administrator should have been apprised of the situation. And Jay, were you notified by any
No.
officials?
They told us, hey, no, Doreen, and I reached out to the DEC to see who was responsible for notifying us and why we weren't notified. I mean, in the Hudson River, 500,000 gallons, is it significant? Probably not, as it's been stated, but just a common courtesy that we could be aware and make sure we're going to do extra testing, or we want to change our process in that time of day is definitely something that should have been done. I reached out to the DEC again earlier today to contact who was the one that did get notified and actually made the announcement that it was there, because we should have found out, and B, we're partners in a water plant. You know, they should at least notify Randy before they notified us as a number one priority, and that's definitely being addressed.
So has the source of the spill been identified to you?
Nope, all we were told was Rinaldi Boulevard.
Okay, and isn't that the vicinity of the City of Poughkeepsie sewer plant?
That's where we think it came from. They think it was the contractor that runs that plant. I called the DEC today, their spill hotline and so on. They had no information on it, and that's when they gave me the number of an office in White Plains, and we're waiting for a call back from them.
Okay. And you know, like I said, I did send an email to the board, but that was only today. And, you know, you're now part of the Hudson River Drinking Water Intermunicipal Council, and that's 7 municipalities who get their drinking water from the Hudson River. And you would think that, especially since you have that council now, that people would be notified. And even, I'm not saying it did come from the city, but if it did, you would think that since both the city and the town are in that intermunicipal council, that, again, if it was the city, that they would have had the courtesy to notify the town. So I think once you determine, or once someone determines where it came from, I think that's something worth pursuing in the intermunicipal council, that, people should have the courtesy for other municipalities to let them know for the, when there's a potential of a problem.
Well, we definitely brought with them and with the DEC. I mean, we should have been notified, at least the water department, or less than that, if it is,
Right.
from that location, because the journal didn't define exactly where it was, but that location is close enough to the plant, I'd say within a half a mile, that we should have definitely been notified, and Randy, if anything, should have been notified right away.
Yeah,
And that didn't
absolutely.
happen.
Absolutely. Okay. And then I've asked about this before. The tree cutting that was done without permits and the erosion and sediment control, lack of erosion and sediment control for property owned by the Lepores on Rivercrest Road, were they ever fined under Chapter 97.7 erosion and sediment control?
The Director of Development is working with the legal department and planning department to work out their next step on whether it's a fine and how to properly fine them. They have worked with them as far as going out and making sure the sediment controls were in place. And I think Mike had contacted them today again to make sure their next step of their sediment control is where it belongs. As far as the actual fine going in, I know as of Monday, he was talking to the legal from the planning department to see where their step was and the proper way to do it, to get over into the court.
Okay, and I understand it is important to have all the proper erosion and sediment control in place now, but the point is that they were supposed to do that before they started, and if they're not fined, and, then it's just like, well, we went ahead and did it, and there's really no consequences. And a lot of times in these cases, developers just see it as a cost of doing business anyway. It's a lot easier just to go in and cut down all the trees and do whatever you want, and then maybe get a slap on the hand, but still go ahead and, and get your project moving. So
No, Mike is addressing it.
all right, thank you. And then the last thing is that the all space expansion. Jay, you verified in an email that they have not yet come before the town board. I wasn't at a couple of meetings, so I wasn't sure if I missed it. They will need a rezoning.
Correct. I think I was told in front of the planning board.
Okay, so when they do come before the board for rezoning, and like I said, I know there are wetlands on the site, and since the town board has signed the Climate Smart Pledge, I hope you will be looking into whether natural resource protection is actually taking place on the site, since you signed that pledge and you're asking for grant money. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Is there anybody else? Mr. Armstrong.
Number 8. The redesigning the Main Street walkway is what they were talking about? Is the sidewalks?
Last
They're
year,
going to redesign it? Or they
No,
need to be-
it's the whole thing. We're going to be looking at the entire street and looking at, because part of the pedestrian survey, one of the recommendations came out of that is actually narrowing down the street. It's quite wide there, and that'll give us more room for more streetscaping and sidewalks. Still going to have on-street parking, and also just basically help spruce up the area and have it looking better. So it'd be more conducive for people to walk and for businesses to move in there.
last year, the Dutchess County did a transportation study for that whole section of Main Street. And in order to apply for a grant, we have to do a more in-depth study to prepare for that. What they gave us is not enough information to apply for a grant to do any of that, to make it more of a walkable community over there. So this grant would give us that next phase of the study to prepare for that.
What section of Main Street are we talking about? From where to
basically
where?
From Acropolis to the city line, from the Acropolis Diner down to the city
And the
line.
sidewalks that are there are not suitable for
It's
people
not a matter.
walking?
It's not a matter of sidewalks, Mr. Armstrong. It's a matter of the street is so wide. The speed sometimes is too much there, so we'll narrow the streets down and put curb abutments out and so forth. And I think in the study, there was actually a roundabout down by,
Like they did in the city of Poughkeepsie,
yes.
on part of Main Street where they got the things.
Yeah, and we're talking about lighting and maybe some street benches and things like that. So we're talking about a whole streetscape there.
And that's with a $45,000 grant, is that what that?
No, the grant was, that $45,000 grant was for the master plan. This grant, I don't think it had an amount on it, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the other
I think I was looking at the wrong
$45,000
one.
was the
Yeah, no,
master
It doesn't
plan
have
grant.
an,
The last person that was up there talked about their property down there on Rivercrest Road, Lepore's property. And you said that they went down and they did something about the land.
Stabilization
so
of
you wrote-
land.
What the only thing I've seen down there was the orange fencing around the property.
That was the step one, is silt fencing.
That's supposed to be what stops the erosion, that plastic
That's a
fence?
beginning phase to stop erosion, and they have to replant, reseed, and there's other things, and I'm not the planner, so I can't tell you exactly what.
I
it takes.
noticed they put in a drain on the roadside, the road edge, with a stone driveway going partly into it. Why they put the drain in, that property, that side road was already, had a drainage with stones and everything else, and they, seems like they did something that has no effect. But they're working on it, and they're gonna clear all the trees off that would have been cut, which was in excess of what they were allowed to do, I understand, and then reseed and
I know reseeding is part of it, it's gotta get it back for stormwater control. As far as moving the trees, I don't know to what extent they're removing trees, that I can't answer.
well, the ones that have already been cut, I understand they're gonna remove them from the property. I don't know. I'm not, don't know all the details. But anyway, last week when I was here, I had a discussion about the pilot program for Lowe's, which I think was somewhere $600 and some thousand that's gonna be cut from their tax liability. What I don't remember, was that for 2 years or 3 years that cut was gonna be involved?
It was a 3-year plan, and I don't know how much it was every year off the top of my head, but
Oh, it wouldn't be the same each year?
no, there was different amounts on each year, I don't know what they were. If it was 600,000, then it went to 5 or 4, I don't think they were the
So
same
we're
every
looking
year.
at somewhere $1 million, 2 or 3, over 3 years that comes off their tax liability, okay? What I'm confused about is that a statement was made by a board member that you're not giving them anything back. $1 million, 2 or 3 tells me you're giving them something back by cutting their tax
No,
liability.
we're not giving them back a refund, a lot of times when we have these
I
agreements.
understand not a refund, but to say that you're not giving anything back, you're giving them $1 million, 2 or 3 cut in their tax liability.
They were giving it off their assessment, but she's correct, we're not writing them a check back for the other years that were in there, as a comment that the board member made.
Understood.
Yeah,
How does the town make up those pilot programs that go to
they're
these
not pilots,
different,
that's a tax.
or whatever
yeah.
you call it? How do they make up that money that goes to these big businesses, IBM and all the other ones?
It goes
that
along the
have-
total assessment of the whole town throughout, everybody
So
ends
we
up being
all
a piece
kick in
of
to
that.
make up what they,
Everybody eats that piece.
fine, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? No. Well, before we go, we've got a call today, there's a water consultant going around hanging things on their doorknob. They've been approved, correct?
they do
Felicia?
have a peddler's
They have a
license.
peddler's license, but it's not something that the town is partaking in. It's just somebody out there asking if you want to have your water tested, and I think it may go further into if you want other things. It's not associated with the town. The town is not telling everybody they need to get their water tested, so anybody listening to this, don't feel that it's a requirement on the town on any part. We test our water on a regular basis. We send out reports yearly on where our water standards are, so don't feel, I don't know what kind of language they're using when they talk to you, but don't feel it's something that we're condoning. You know, they're out as a peddler, and they're probably selling something that goes along with it. They came in and got a license, but it's not something the town is requiring. We just want people to know that, you know, don't feel it's something you have to do. Anybody, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.